All right. What has been the biggest surprise for you during this time?
Oh gosh. Well, tons of surprises. I would say, in some ways, it's been the mixed bag of loss and new opportunity. So, a lot of grief, a lot of sadness, a lot of things that people planned on that have hasn't happened. And yet, at the same time, I've been really impressed by and grateful for the ways in which people have stepped up, served, looked for light and opportunities. So it's been a little bit of a surprise, the extent to which both can be true at the same time. That people can really be struggling, but also find ways to reach out and serve, ways to care about each other, and even ways to find joy in the midst of it all. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, yeah, this is all a very dark time. And looking forward, what has been sort of right now your greatest source of hope? What propels you to keep going?
Um, the acts of kindness, generosity, grace. You know, anytime I'm in need of a pick me up, I think about, look to see the example of our food pantry. And they're just unbelievable acts of really sustaining kindness. So people are, it strikes me every time people are able to put food on their plates because of what the food pantry is offering. And it's a sad and tragic situation that is required. But when I'm looking for hope, when my energy is low, I just think about those ways that people are reaching out to care for each other, and especially for strangers. It's wonderful and fitting and important that we're looking out for our own families and our own congregation. But I really believe that Christ calls us to look beyond just the people we know and love, and kind of within our own family or even faith family. And it's those acts of kindness for those outside of the church community that I think are most moving and inspiring for me right
Of course, yeah. On a different note, every Sunday at 11 a.m., how's that been preaching to nobody?
now. Yeah, eerie, strange. I said to some of the liturgists, I don't know, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, that uh, I take comfort in the fact that I haven't gotten used to it, that it hasn't become normal. I hope it never does. I get energy from a sanctuary full of people, and so that's been difficult. It's been difficult to kind of summon the energy, and yet at the same time, I think two things have helped. One, it's a sacred space, and it's a sacred space empty just as it is a sacred space filled. And so I really do get the sense of God's presence in our sanctuary on Sunday mornings, even when the pews are not filled. And the other thing is hearing from and getting feedback from the members of the congregation. So it's been really inspiring to read after the service the Facebook comments on the Facebook Live feed, and just get a sense of what people are reacting to. My inbox has been full most Sunday afternoon, most of the time these days, but especially on Sunday afternoons, I love to just be able to go through and read how people are responding. So I am not, the physical space is empty, but I am always aware that there are people who are receiving those words and hopefully nourished and inspired by them. But that doesn't change the fact that it's strange. There's an
Yeah.
eerie feeling to it for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Um, in the last few months, all our schedules have definitely changed. I know going from school in person to school online, the days are different, are kind of structured differently. What does your average day look like?
Yeah. Do you ever wake up and sort of wonder for the first hour or so what day it is?
Yeah, all the time, actually. Yeah, it's
I mean, these days it's like, what's the difference between a Thursday and a Tuesday? And
Mhm.
I the a nice thing in the church world is that Sunday is Sunday, and so that for me is the anchor of the week. And it's been interesting because I think a lot of people, the Groundhog Day analogy has been used. That a lot of people are like, "Gosh, I'm just living the same day over and over again." But that has made Sunday stand out, I think, in a lot of ways. So Sunday is the day when I get up early and put on the same clothes I would have put on Sunday mornings before all of this started. And so that's an anchor for me to have that routine. Apart from that, there are still the kind of weekly meetings on Tuesdays that we do by Zoom, and time with the Lake Fellows on Wednesday. So there are kind of those touch points throughout the week. But we have a kindergartner and a 3-year-old here at the house, and they dictate a lot of our schedule. So right now, our 3-year-old is taking a nap, and our 6-year-old is right over there doing his e-learning for his kindergarten class. And so Sarah and I have really had to figure out a different rhythm. So it's blocks of time, morning, afternoon, and evening. And I don't know how it is. You've got 2 teenagers in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if this is true with everybody, but there is an intimacy and a togetherness. In the evenings after dinner, we'll go for a walk. We'll watch a movie. We do story time together as a family. So there's a sweetness to that as well. But not having the days broken up by appointments and meetings is certainly a strange experience, I think, for everybody. So.
Yeah, definitely the togetherness, being able to see my brother and my mother a lot more than I usually would during the school year, because I'm not at school, I'm at home all the time. It's been nice to see them, even though sometimes seeing my brother, it can get a little, there can be some conflict sometimes, but overall it's been a lot.
Too much togetherness, right?
Maybe a little, yeah.
Are you guys eating dinner together as a family most nights?
Most nights it's dinner together, but for lunch it's definitely separate. Yeah.
We're about the same.
With this whole new schedule for a lot of people have a lot of free time. Have you done any different home renovations, painting some rooms, positioning furniture, anything like that? I know some people have.
Yeah, no, God bless them. I don't know what this free time is of which you're speaking. No, we've done some things. It's been nice to be outside, especially as the weather's gotten a little better. So Sarah's a big gardener and has done a lot of planting outside, and we've enjoyed kind of doing that as a family. We got, at the end of the fall, got a little fire pit for the backyard, and so that's been fun, roasting marshmallows with the boys. And but as far as kind of the attentiveness to a project, that's still eluded us. We just kind of have to squeeze in things where we can at this point. So yeah.
And sort of related to that, you talked about being able to roast marshmallows and having more family time. What has been specifically your favorite thing that you've been able to do during this coronacation, as some are calling it? Yeah.
I would say time outside with the boys has been the best. So, we're really fortunate to live just down the street from Coxhall Gardens, which is a beautiful, large, open green space. And Sam and Ben both have scooters that they love to ride. So we'll get out and, throw some lunch boxes in a backpack and go down to one of the ponds and have a picnic there, and then just run around and play. And really getting to be present with the boys in their imaginative spaces as well. So, lots of make-believe games, lots of pillow forts, lots of time spent in the basement, lots of physical kind of play. And so that's been a blessing. It's been a blessing to, especially at this stage of their lives, to feel like we've had a reconnection for this length of time. So that's where the greatest joy has been, for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah. Back to more of the church side of things, I've noticed during the live streams on Sunday, there's a bit of a sock off or a sock challenge between you and John Allegar. Can you tell me what's going on there?
Yeah, boy, that you are attentive. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how it started, but I make the comment that for me on Sunday mornings, especially wearing the robe, the only place where I have for some creativity is with the socks.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And so a couple of weeks into the live stream, somebody had made a comment or sent an email or something. They were anticipating what kind of socks I would be wearing the next week, and I think it was that next Sunday that we call it the pedal cam. The shot of John's feet when he's playing the organ, which are just, it's unbelievable to see. I think it was that week that showed up, and I thought, oh, okay. So we do compare notes. I wouldn't say there's necessarily a competition, but we definitely check in. This past Sunday, John was not in the sanctuary on Sunday morning, and so I had to text him a picture of the socks I was wearing just to be sure he knew I was still on the game.
Yeah, for sure. We're in Indiana, so we got to talk about basketball. I'm an Ohio State fan myself, and I know you're a Duke Blue Devil. But after however many hundreds of days you spent in Indiana, have you been able to see any legendary games? And do you have any allegiance towards one school or the other?
Yeah, the great thing about being a Duke guy in Indiana is I don't have to pick sides on any of the rivalries in the Big Ten. So
Yeah.
I can float above that Big Ten conference rivalries. But I'll say a couple of things. One, I just want everybody to know that I ran a simulation of the NCAA tournament since it didn't happen this year. March, the thing I love most about March, I think your dad is in this camp too.
Yeah.
Didn't happen this year. And so there were ways where you could sort of run simulations of all the games. And so I ran one, and amazingly, Duke won the 2020 NCAA basketball championship.
Oh.
So I'm trying to get in touch with Coach K to see if he wants to hang that banner or not. But so far I hadn't gotten any responses. So I got to go. It was actually the game Bobby Knight came back. I got to go to Assembly Hall earlier this year, thanks to a member of our congregation, Peter Myers, who took me down for the games. First time I'd been to Bloomington, first time I'd been in that hallowed space, and it happened to be the Purdue game. So it was a fun one to get to see. Not as fun for the Hoosier fans since they didn't come out on top, but
I remember.
But definitely I'm a big fan of these venerated old basketball halls. So it was great to be in that space and get to kind of walk around and see the history as well. So, yeah.
Something I'd like to poke your brain about. How would you describe Second, even though we're apart, to someone who has not ever been to service but just watched our live streams on Sundays? How would you describe the community that is Second?
What a great question. I think a lot about that, and one of the things that that keeps coming to me about this time is just how clarifying it is. We had a meeting of our executive staff yesterday, and I was saying that there is something about this time that is a focusing time for us, and I think of us as a place centered in the worship of God. And I think we worship a God who is defined by grace, who is defined by unconditional love, who is defined by this radical hospitality and welcome that we've talked a lot about in the last couple of years. And so if that's who we are, if we are people defined by the God of grace and hospitality and love who we worship, then how do we live that in this time? So we are not welcoming people to the church building in the same way that we would have been 2 months ago. And yet I don't think the radical hospitality, the grace, the love, and the welcome have to be put on the shelf until we open the doors of the church again. And so what I see as kind of core to Second's identity is, how do we live out our mission in this moment? And I see it all across the congregation in different ways. So even things like what you and I are doing this afternoon, it's so great to see your face. It's so great to hear your voice. It's great to feel like we are with each other, even recognizing that it's through a screen. And I think there are countless ways that that's happening. And so folks are studying scripture in this way. Folks are praying via Zoom in our prayer group. We've got these Thursday evening prayer services. So as I think about a community rooted in the worship of a welcoming God, there are still countless ways that we can be doing that even now. I'm going to say in the sermon on Sunday that one of my favorite memes these days is, the church is not empty, the church is deployed. And that's a beautiful image for what we are right now. The church was never meant to be captive to a physical space. And so what we're doing right now is being set free into the world to live our faith. And there will come a day when we can gather again. And I can't wait to hear all the stories about the transformation that God has accomplished in this time of separation.
Yeah, I as well can't wait. One last question. What can we do to help? What can the congregation of Second, what can we do to help our neighbors and our community of faith during this time?
It's a great question, and I hear it all the time. And again, that tells me a lot about who we are. People are looking for ways to give back and to serve. And I always say the first thing we can do is root ourselves in God's presence through worship and prayer. I believe in the power of prayer to transform individuals and communities, and so we continue to pray, especially for people who are most at risk, whether that's at risk for physical illness or just the impacts of not having enough of the bare necessities these days. So we pray, but I love the old proverb that says, "Pray but move your feet." So even as we pray, I think there are things that we can do. So we're going to be organizing a way to specifically support the food pantry. We've started an emergency fund so that we can be able to meet the needs of members of our community or just neighbors who are in specific needs because of this pandemic. I also, we've been, I think, in some really powerful ways, turning people back to their neighborhoods. So as folks have come to the church and said, what does the church need? Some of what we say is the church needs you to be a good neighbor to your neighbors. And so the woman who lives down the street all by herself, who you maybe wave at from the sidewalk, what about asking if she's okay on groceries, or if you can ever make a run to the store for her? If there's a family in the neighborhood that is just up to here, is there a way that you can alleviate some of their stress and anxiety? So there are ways to support the church, but I think the other way we live out our faith, and maybe the primary way we live out our faith, is by following Jesus' command to love God and love our neighbors. And there are countless ways that we can do both of those right now.
Very well said. Well, it's been great to talk to you today.
Well, thank you, Bradley. And before we were recording, I was asking you, but you are finishing up junior year, right?
Yes,
so
yes, I am.
Yeah. So what does that look like over the next couple of weeks? What's remaining for you?
So I have, at the end of this week, I'll have 2 more weeks after that. So May 29th is my last day. And, something different, of course, is that we're not going to have necessarily finals, but we'll have sort of end tests over what we've been learning, but they won't be for sort of as big of a percentage of our grade as they would be. So that kind of takes some pressure off me to sort of be able to like calm down, because, during this time being inside, it can raise your stress levels a little bit. But yeah, definitely doing that. And then, I have chemistry right now, and something that's interesting is our teacher will take videos of her doing labs and then send them to us to kind of analyze and collect data on, which has been a bit interesting. So this whole learning sort of environment for my house it's just a great experience.
Yeah. Have you discovered any talents or new hobbies or any way to spend your time that you weren't doing before this?
Well, I'm definitely getting a lot more sleep, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that along with I've been taking a lot more bike rides, which is something I before this, I couldn't even tell you the last time I went out on my bike. It had been so long, but during this, it's like almost every other day I've been out on my bike, being able to just run around the neighborhood and see things that getting the fresh air is just real nice. Well,
definitely looking forward to being back together with you and your family when the time is right for that. But in the meantime, great to be able to spend this time with you, and blessings to you and your family as you journey through.